Hey again, travel bosses. I'm excited to bring you this week's sponsor, TripStreak, the smarter travel search. What I love about TripStreak is the ability to set your personal preferences to either have or avoid red-eye flights or have things like completely lie flat seats. So the next time you need to book a flight, check out tripstreak.com/travel-like-a-boss.
Welcome to the Travel Like a Boss podcast, the radio show all about traveling like a boss by being your own boss. Stay tuned for weekly interviews featuring guests that have built their own online businesses. If you would like to have access to our entire back catalog, visit travellikeabosspodcast.com for instant access. And here's your host, Johnny FD.
Hey everyone, this is Johnny, and welcome to episode 162 of the Travel Like a Boss podcast. I'm here in Barcelona with Viktorija Juskevica.
Hey everyone, my name is actually Viktorija Juskevica, but Johnny likes to call me Viktorija Justice.
It sounds more superhero-ish.
Yeah, it does.
I like it. So let's take it all the way back. How did we first meet?
So the first time I met Johnny was at one of the coffee shops in Chiang Mai. I think you were talking about, no, you were not actually talking. There was another person speaking about a specific subject. I think it was marketing. And you were just one of the organizers of the event. And that's how we met.
Yeah, so I think it was the Nomad Coffee Club. It's something we do every Friday in Chiang Mai. And I normally don't speak at them. The whole point of it is just to get people in Chiang Mai to meet each other, and whoever has a skill to share, they're welcome to come and give a talk. So it's probably one of those events.
Yeah, it was.
So how long were you actually in Chiang Mai for?
So I was living in Chiang Mai for 1.5 years in total.
That's crazy that I hardly saw you there at all.
Yeah, I know. I was hiding all the time.
So where did you normally hang out in Chiang Mai?
The first half a year, I was working with a team of Canadian developers. So I would say I was mostly in the house. We were renting a house and kind of working there almost 24/7. And then I got my own place a little bit outside of the city. So that's why I wasn't in the digital nomad scene that much.
Okay, so you weren't in the heart of Neiman.
Yeah,
like
I
the rest of us.
The heart of Neiman.
That's kind of cool that you saw a different part of Chiang Mai then.
Yeah.
And how long have you been in Barcelona now?
So I've been in Barcelona for a month now.
And what are your initial thoughts of Barcelona versus Chiang Mai?
So the first thought that I had is I completely fell in love with the city because of the architecture. I'm originally from Europe, so I love old buildings. I love history. I love walking down, the streets and looking at amazing architecture. And that's one of the main things that I missed when I was in Asia.
Well, even just on my terrace right now, there's these two dome buildings.
Yeah.
That at first I thought it was some, fancy museum or something, but I think it was just part of someone's house.
Yeah, exactly. All the houses, they look like a museum of art or something. And this is the main difference. And on the opposite side, I miss food in Chiang Mai. Here in Barcelona, the only two things that you mostly eat are tapas and paellas, which is not, it's not very diverse as the Asian cuisine.
So for you guys who haven't had it before, a paella is like a rice dish that is cooked with traditionally seafood, but it turns out that paella in Barcelona actually sucks, and it's and it's because first I think paella is a southern Spain thing. So I heard it is very good in other places, like in Valencia, where I think it's originated from. But in Barcelona, pretty much 90% of the restaurants you walk by that have a pre-printed paella sign, that sign is given to them for free to advertise these frozen paellas that they just heat up.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know that. No wonder they taste so bad. I definitely know that.
Yeah, so that's tip number one. If you guys are in Barcelona and you see the same sign in front of the same restaurants, either for paella, pizza, or pasta, or you just wonder, how does this restaurant have this many menu options when there's just one person working there? It's because it's frozen.
Wow. Yeah, that's why I like making food at home or going out to non-Spanish restaurants.
I've actually heard that a lot from people who live here, is that they end up they like food in Barcelona, but not necessarily Barcelona food, like not Spanish food and not Catalonian food, which is actually the region we're in. They like the international food, whether it be, I guess, Thai food or Indian food or something else.
Yeah, that's why I like that you can find basically any type of food here.
Have you actually tried Thai food?
Yes, I have, but I went there yesterday. I went to a Thai place.
And how was that?
It was, again, not as good as in Chiang Mai.
And how much did you pay for it?
I paid 10 euros for fried rice with shrimp.
Okay, let's break that down into baht. That's what? 350? No, 400 baht.
Yeah, that's about that.
For a cow pad gong, which is how much in Chiang Mai?
I think in Chiang Mai was just a few dollars.
I think it would be
$2 or something.
Maybe 60, 70 baht, which is $2.
Yeah.
So you literally paid 5 times the price and it wasn't as good.
Yeah, exactly.
But, that, I think for food wise, hands down, Chiang Mai just beats pretty much everywhere in the world for value, the cost of it, and also just it just tastes good. It's just good flavor.
Yeah, exactly. And also all the fruits in Chiang Mai, at any point of the year you have a season of something. And here, I tasted mangoes and strawberries, and they're kind of bitter. I mean, not bitter, but they're not as juicy and sweet as they are in Chiang Mai.
Well, it's actually fruit. I think if we try to eat tropical fruit like mangoes, or try to find lychees or papaya, it's going to be terrible here. It's going to be expensive and it won't be sweet because they have to import it in. But I think they have fruits here that we can't get in Chiang Mai. For example, peaches and nectarines and apricots.
Yeah.
And I think that's actually way better here and cheaper than in Chiang Mai.
Yes, I agree on that.
And actually, strawberries. I'm actually surprised you got a bad batch of strawberries. That's your strawberry water, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Strawberries have been so cheap that I've been just buying kilos of it every time I go to the store, because you can get 2 pounds of it, which is a kilo, for about €2. So $1 a pound. And there's no way you can get that in Chiang Mai.
Well, that is true. And yeah, strawberries are not expensive here, but I don't know, for me, they're still a bit not as ripe as, from my grandma's garden. Maybe I was just spoiled when I was a kid.
I think you were definitely spoiled. And I think it's the beginning of strawberry season right now. So it can kind of fluctuate. But the one, I guess it's technically a fruit, but the one kind of thing that is the best produce I've ever had in my life are cherry tomatoes here in Barcelona.
Really?
Have you had it?
Yeah, I have.
They are, I mean, I don't know if I'm just used to crappy tomatoes in the US where they taste watery, or even in Chiang Mai, I don't think they were that good. But here for €1 for a basket, they were the best thing I ever had in my life.
And I think I'm very spoiled because my dad, he works in import-export business and he imports fruits from Spain to Latvia. So I kind of always had that.
So you've always had good stuff.
Yeah.
So how's the food in Latvia?
The food in Latvia is kind of similar to all the, foods that you have in SSSR because it was a part of SSSR. So it's mostly potatoes, beans, different types of cutlets, soups. Yeah, mostly that.
So I noticed that you don't pronounce or say the U. You don't say USSR. You just say SSSR.
Yeah. That's because in Russian you say SSSR.
So 3 S's and an R?
Yeah.
What does it mean?
It's
how do you say it in I don't know, in
Союз Советских Республик, Социалистических Советских Республик.
Okay, what does that mean?
It's
because in American it would be USSR, what? United Soviet Social Republic? I don't know.
Yeah, that's exactly that.
Is that what it is?
Yeah,
okay.
But it's in Russian.
That's funny that it's SSSR instead of USSR.
Yeah.
Okay, so food in Spain, I think it's unfair to say in Spain in total because Barcelona is very different. Mm-hmm. So I would say for me personally in Barcelona, I like that you can get a variety of food like kebabs or other ethnicities food, but the actual Spanish food is very disappointing.
Yes, I agree with that. So if you love food, if you love local food, then Asia is the place to go. But again, if you come to Barcelona, you can always find food from a different culture.
However, the wine is a million times better here than in Thailand.
Oh yeah, like in Thailand, you barely find good wine. And if you find it, it costs like a fortune.
Yeah, so I don't know why I started getting into wine when I was in Chiang Mai. I think it was because you always want what you can't have or what's, difficult to acquire or obtain. So when I was there, I started learning more about wine and trying to find good wine. And the only options are the bottle that you get at 7-Eleven, which is Montclair, and that's maybe like $6 a bottle, but it's terrible. It's like, I don't even think it's actually made from grapes. It says fruit wine on the back. So it's like a mixture of different fermented fruits.
Yeah.
And then the next level up is 1,000 baht for a bottle, which is close to $30.
Yeah.
And for that equivalent, for a $30 bottle, here it's what, 3-4 euro at a supermarket?
Yes, exactly.
It's insane.
Well, that's how it is. That's why if you're, a wine lover, Chiang Mai is not the best place to go, probably. Yeah. Or if you stack like a separate luggage with wines, maybe then it will work.
Yeah, definitely don't try to stack a whole luggage with the wine. But definitely, I would say, bring 2 bottles, right? Because that's what you can bring in. And there's no reason not to.
Yeah, that's what I was doing when I was flying from Europe back to Chiang Mai. I would always bring a couple of bottles to kind of share with friends because it's so much better.
So the other things that are better here would be cheese.
Yeah.
It's expensive and hard to get in Chiang Mai. And ironically, I didn't care about cheese when I lived in the US and when I was in Thailand, especially when I was on these little islands where you couldn't get anything. People would talk about it all the time, cheese and chocolate, and it was hard to find good stuff. And now that I'm here, it's so abundant. Yeah,
I guess people, I also noticed that in Chiang Mai, people mostly talk about things they miss from home or from, places they visited, and cheese was one of them. And here we're so close to France, so you can get basically anything.
Yeah, and you actually brought up a really good point, is when we are living somewhere else, we're always reminiscing about the things we miss.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe that's, a mindset thing. We should focus on things that are better and that we have in the place we go to.
Yeah. I mean, it really is like the grass is always greener on the other side.
Yeah. Wise words when you start to understand when you actually experience it,
Yeah. But, this is kind of part of traveling. And I think this is what I like about our lifestyle is we get a new perspective on things all the time.
Yeah, definitely. I've noticed that I started appreciating home more when I traveled because you get used to so many things and the comfort. And then you go to places like, Chiang Mai or Laos and things are completely different there. And you start to appreciate how easy and comfortable things were home. So every time you go and visit, you're like, I miss that and I'm happy that I can experience it right now. But you still want to go somewhere else and try something new.
So missing the old USSR.
Well, my grandparents do miss it, but I was born when it was just collapsing, so I don't have nothing to miss there.
So what got you, what made you start traveling in the first place?
So, I always loved traveling when I was a teenager. My parents didn't travel that much. I don't know why, but I always had this idea of a dream job to be able to work and travel whenever you want. And until my second year of university, I thought that it's not possible. I haven't, encountered anyone who did that. So for me, it was like a pipe dream or something. And then I applied for the Sovereign Man business camp in Lithuania. I went there and I saw people that actually do it. People that travel around the world that have online businesses, and I saw that it's actually possible. And there I met a bunch of people who were one of the first of the nomads, the digital nomads, and they advised me to go to Chiang Mai as a good place to start.
Oh, that's cool. So this program, the Sovereign Man, does that have anything to do with Seven Black?
Yes, he's the founder, and he goes there every summer. He chooses from 50 to 60 people that take part in the program, and it's completely free, so you need to pay only for the ticket there.
That's really cool. And this is in Latvia?
It's in Lithuania.
Lithuania?
Yeah, but it's so close. It's like 4-hour bus drive.
That's so random. Why do you think he does it there?
I don't know the whole story, but I think he was originally invited to participate in one of the other like business type camps there. And he just, fell in love with the whole, that facility and, just started doing it there. Because also the cost of, kind of facilitating it there is very low. And I guess it's Europe, so all the people from Europe can go there. But yeah, it's a bit harder from, the folks from the States and, Asia and Latin America.
Okay. Well, that's really cool. And we've actually had Simon Black on the podcast. Do you know that?
Yeah, I know that. I listened to it.
Oh, cool. What'd you think of the episode?
What?
What did you think of the episode?
I loved it. I mean, there were a few points that I didn't know about Simon, and I always love listening to him, so.
Well, very cool. Yeah, I've checked out a couple of his articles on his blog about the 5 flags theory, where you have your bank account in one country, your business in one country, your passport in one country, your residence in one country, and so on. If you guys are interested in that episode, we'll have a link to it in the show notes, but it is on the other podcast, my other podcast, Invest Like a Boss, and it's episode 19. So what got you even interested in all of this in the first place?
I would say my curiosity. I think that was the main thing because, for me, sitting in one place is not the way to develop yourself. I mean, you can do that. I mean, monks do that. They go to, a cave and sit there for decades. But I like to experience the world and grow in other ways. And I was very curious about other cultures, and I enjoy freedom. So freedom of movement is something that I'm very passionate about, and I'm very happy, I guess, lucky in this case that I've been born in a country that gives me a passport where I can go anywhere.
So you're lucky that you were born when you were, and not while the SSSR was happening.
Yeah, because there you weren't able to travel much. I mean, only within the USSR. But yeah, now that Latvia is in Europe. And
that's perfect, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And I think we never actually hear about Latvia. Why is that?
It's such a small country. Like, honestly, if I would be from somewhere else, especially not from Europe, I don't think I would know that Latvia exists. I mean, I was just talking to a Spanish person today, and he asked me, like, where are you from? And I said, from Latvia. And he didn't know, even though, like, we're in Europe, and I thought that, people know the countries that are in EU, but apparently not. And yeah, it's so tiny, and it's the history of it is not well known. And usually when people think about Latvia, they kind of put together the 3 Baltic countries like Lithuania, Estonia. In Estonia, I would say it's one of it's the well-known country from the Baltic states because of the e-residency and, Skype. So it's way technologically advanced than Latvia. And unfortunately, at this point, Latvia doesn't have much input that it can give to the world. I mean, it's a beautiful country, it's a beautiful place, and I would advise people to visit it at least once. But in terms of technology or education,
No technology, no education.
No. No, we do have that, but I mean, we're not the trendsetters, I would say. That Estonia is, like, really good at that.
Okay, that definitely makes sense. And I think the e-residency in Estonia was such a good marketing. I almost want to call it a gimmick, because I looked more into it. And if you guys aren't unfamiliar with it, basically Estonia is now allowing pretty much anybody to get an e-residency to their country. So you can become a electronic citizen of Estonia, which sounds so cool because it sounds like you get some kind of passport. It sounds like you can kind of be part of the EU. But when you really look into it, you pretty much get nothing. And I think the only real benefit is if you would like to pay taxes in Estonia for whatever reason, they're allowing you to pay taxes in Estonia. And I think that is beneficial if you're from another country where you have to pay taxes somewhere, but not necessarily in your home country. Mm-hmm. So I think for them in my work is it's a lower tax bracket. But for Americans, I'm pretty sure it's like literally useless because we would still have to pay taxes in America.
Yeah. I didn't look that much into that because for me it's pointless. But that's what I've heard is basically if you want to open a company and pay, less percentage of taxes, as compared to your home country, then Estonia is a place to go.
Yeah, and because of that, because the concept of it, it's really put Estonia on the map.
Yeah.
I mean, I think most people didn't even realize that Skype was originally made in Estonia, but the e-residency, like I think at least all nomads have heard about it, at least in passing.
Yeah.
And now that's like, people are starting to think like, oh, maybe I'll move to Estonia.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I remember the first time I heard that Skype was made by, an Estonian startup. I was like, what? We make things here? But right now, actually, there's quite a decent startup scene in Estonia and Lithuania. A lot of them are being bought by larger companies. And again, it's something that Latvia is still working on.
Well, it's coming. I think I met two brothers from, I think it was Latvia, that have a watch company that got like a ton of funding on Kickstarter.
Mm-hmm.
And I met them in Koh Lanta, Thailand. And now my Facebook newsfeed is just full of their adverts. How like these, it was definitely one of those two countries, but I think it was Latvia. I'll have to look it up. But so there are definitely people in that area who are young entrepreneurs
mm-hmm.
who are like really trying to kill it in the online marketing scene.
Yeah. Yeah, like there's another digital nomad that was in Chiang Mai. His name is Emils, and he's the founder of the iPhone photography school. So he's really kicking it there, and he's from Latvia. I mean, for me, he's the coolest Latvian that I've ever met. Apart from myself, of course.
Viktorija Juskevica. I like it. So how did you actually decide to move to Chiang Mai? You heard about it at this workshop. They gave you the idea. Was it easy for you just to pack up your stuff and go, or what was your mindset behind it?
I think it was easier than I originally thought. So after I went to the camp, I had a full year to kind of finish my university. And then I started working for a company in Latvia, and I hated it. I just, I was very depressed in like a terrible place. And I started reaching out to those people that I met at the business camp. And they all advised me to go to Chiang Mai because it's warm, it's cheap. There are a lot of, like-minded people there. So you will definitely figure something out.
What did you hate about the corporate world?
I don't know if that applies to all of the corporate world or just the company that I was working at, but I didn't really like the job that I was doing. It was mostly just, kind of playing with numbers in Excel, which is something that I like when it's, a small fraction of the job that I do. But when it's, everything I do every day, 5 days a week, then it's just, it was very annoying.
I think that's kind of like the assembly line mentality of corporate businesses, where there's one person that just puts the mustard on the hamburger bun,
mm-hmm.
And that's all they do the whole day.
I know, and I didn't like that. Again, I like taking a task, kind of perfecting it, optimizing it, and then going to the next one and doing the same thing. Yeah,
I definitely agree. I think, like, for example, the best car companies in the world are like Rolls-Royce, where people actually have like a personal relationship with each car they build from start to finish. And you don't necessarily have to hand build a whole car because, and you don't have to necessarily have one employee do the whole business. But I think if they feel like they're part of the whole process and they can feel like they're actually contributing something, I think that's when not only your employees are happier, but also the end product is a better product. Because if you just have one person, let's say, put in the cup holder in the car, and that's all they do every day, and the rest of the car is a piece of crap, or even like the part that the cup holder interacts with, like it hits the armrest, they're like, I don't care, that's not my job.
Mm-hmm.
You just told me to put in the cup holder.
Yeah, and another thing that I noticed there is they weren't open to innovation. So at that point when I was in the company, they hired a bunch of, college graduates, and we had tons of ideas because we had fresh eyes on the whole process of how things were going. And they weren't really open to that. They just wanted to stick to how things were, even though they were not producing the results they wanted. But, that was something that they know. and taking something new was too risky. So,
Actually, from a business owner's point of view, whenever I would hire somebody, I would actually have to battle with this, where I know it's really valuable to get a fresh perspective, but at the same time, I want it done the way I know it works.
mm-hmm.
So the compromise that I would always do is I would tell whoever I'm hiring, and I'll say, here is our SOP, the standard operating procedure.
Mm-hmm.
And for the first month, please follow this exactly. But at the end of the month, I would really like to hear your thoughts on how we can improve it.
Yeah, that's a very good idea. I think that's how it should be done. I mean, you look at the process with your fresh eyes. It's easier for a person to see if there's any other way how to optimize the whole process. And if it's not, then great. If there is, then you should be open to it.
Yeah. Also, but like from the business owner's point of view, the reason why I didn't want them telling me things like from day one is because they don't understand the whole process yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, so it's almost kind of annoying in the beginning if they're like saying, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? When I'm like, just fucking do it. And then you'll see why we're doing it. But I think the mistake most people make is even after someone like masters that job and they learn it, and then they're like, and then they have all these ideas on how to improve it or make it more efficient, make it better. Then the owner doesn't want to hear it because the job's getting done.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of a delicate balance between the two.
Yes, I definitely agree with that.
So you had a year to prepare, went to Chiang Mai, then what?
Yeah, so I quit the job. Within a month, I quit the job, got a ticket, and just left to Chiang Mai. And it's kind of a weird story to tell because at that point, I didn't have anything up planned. Like, I didn't have a job. Even though I had a few contacts in Chiang Mai, I didn't, there was no way I could know that I would have something figured out there. Like, I always thought that, okay, my backup plan can be spending a few months in Chiang Mai, trying it, and if it doesn't work, then I just go home. And, so the first week I stayed with a friend in Bangkok, and then I just randomly decided to go to Chiang Mai. And through couch surfing, I found a place to stay and also my first job.
Oh, that's random.
Yeah, that was very random.
So you were originally just going to crash there for a few days?
Yeah.
And they offered to rent you the room, or how did that work?
So I planned to stay there for a few days. And when I arrived, I found out that they're renting a house and currently they have a room to stay. And they asked about me, what are my skills, like what is my background, what am I planning to do here? And I told them all that, and we figured out that it will make sense for me to, work with them and to live with them because they have this option. Like, it doesn't matter for them if I stay there, if I don't. They have the room available, and that's how we did it for the first half a year.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I like that. And I think that's a good tip for a lot of people is you don't always have to have everything figured out, but it's really important to go out and just meet people.
Yeah.
Because that is where most of the good jobs are given out is before it goes online anywhere. It's always through word of mouth.
Yeah, that's very true. And before trying couchsurfing, that day, I haven't ever, logged in there. Like, I didn't have an account. I didn't have anything. For me, it was just all new. And I thought, okay, if I'm doing this, why not?
Yeah, I like it. So really stepping out of your boundaries.
Yeah.
Very cool. So after the first 6 months in Chiang Mai, then what?
So then I quit the job with my Canadian colleagues, and I had another offer from another nomad that I met from through couchsurfing.
Again?
Yeah. And it was Brian Kwong, and I was working with him on his language learning startup/company. Yeah,
very cool. And yeah, so Brian's super cool guy. How many languages does he know now?
I think it's, it depends on the level, but he knows really good Mandarin, Japanese, English, and also German.
That's pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
Okay, nice. So you worked with him for a while, and then what?
Yeah, and then, so it was, I quit working for Brian right after I left Chiang Mai, and then I was kind of unemployed for a few months, trying to put my mind together and understand where I want to go with everything. And then I decided to reach out to a few people that I met in Chiang Mai because I was looking for a job. And that's how I got my next couple of gigs. And that's, again, a good learning experience that, as you said, contacts are very important because you never know how you or that person can help each other on the way.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And that's why I'm such a big fan of in-person meetups. Because even though there are a lot of ways to meet people online, either through Facebook groups or, on Reddit or on different forums, those virtual friendships are not as strong as an in-person one, because it's really hard to vouch for someone or offer them a job if you only know them online, versus if you know someone in person, you know their character, they're not a psychopath, and it's just so different, right?
Yeah, and I should say that, like, when you meet in-person meetings, it doesn't mean that you need to talk with a person for like half an hour and give a good impression or something. Like, one of the jobs that I got was with Joe from Tree Tribe. I spoke with him, I think, for 5 minutes after his presentation at the Nomad Summit in Chiang Mai. And and he remembered me because, you kind of get a sense of a personality pretty quickly. And he remembered that, he kind of felt good about speaking and getting to know me. And it was super easy for me to contact him online afterwards, even though we met in person only once.
Yeah, that's super cool. If you guys want to come to the next Nomad Summit, it's going to be mid-January 2018. And it's a good chance to not only meet other nomads, but we try to keep it really informal so you have a chance to even just hang out with the speakers.
Yeah, I highly recommend that. I made a number of good contacts there. So do it.
Yeah, I love it. And, a lot of people say like, oh, why should I come all the way to Chiang Mai or pay for a ticket to go to the actual event when you guys put the videos for free online anyways? But the videos is really only like 25% of it. Like the rest of it really is meeting people in person, doing all the, I don't want to say networking because it almost kind of sounds cheesy where you like handing out business cards. Like nobody's handing out business cards at the Nomad Summit. It is like really, you're just like making friends, you're making travel buddies, and you keep in touch on Facebook. And all of a sudden later on down the road, somebody has, they need to hire someone and they just remember like, oh yeah, like who's that Viktorija Juskevica girl?
Exactly. And I would say that videos are very helpful for, just kind of watching them again and, recollecting on a few points that were given by the speakers. So I use them for that, but going to the live event is definitely way more beneficial in terms of, meeting new people, and because again, you never know what can happen down the line.
Yeah, definitely. And that's why not only do we have the Nomad Summit every year, but that's why we have those weekly Friday meetups. Even though they're, more informal, the quality talks are usually a bit lower just because it's kind of random people that a lot of times they don't really like rehearse or anything. There's usually no projector or anything. It's just someone giving a quick talk, but it's a good way to meet people in person. How's the Nomad scene been here in Barcelona?
Like so far, I met just a few nomads. Of course you. And there's a number of people that work remotely, I've noticed, but the scene is different than in Chiang Mai. It's not as friendly, at least that's the impression that I got. Remote workers are more they're not that open to other people. So if I go to a co-working space, it has a feel of an office more than a co-working space of traveling people. So yeah, I would say that from everywhere that I've been to, Chiang Mai is definitely a place of connecting and getting new contacts. It's very easy. People are warm and friendly, and they kind of understand where you're coming from because you share this, this mindset, this idea, this like character.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. Like for instance, yesterday I was at a co-working space and I got there a bit early, so I was just kind of walking around. And normally in Chiang Mai, if like a new random person comes into the space, you'll like smile at them. You might say hi. You might be like, oh, where are you from? What are you working on? And here it's kind of like, they look at you like, what the hell are you doing here? And I think it's because people almost kind of, like when someone just lives in a place, whether they're originally from Barcelona or they're an expat just living here, they have their group of friends already. They already have their routine. They have this 9-to-5 job, even if they're working remotely. And you're almost kind of like an intruder coming into their space, into their life. Versus in Chiang Mai, it's kind of like you are at college during your first week and a new person walks into your dorm.
That's a good analogy. Like, I definitely relate to that feeling. Yeah, like in Chiang Mai, you can meet people in cafes and bars, even on the street. It's so much easier, but you're right. Like when you're in another country, I guess, especially in Europe, where people are less open than in Asia. I mean, not in Asia, but in the digital nomad scene. It's a bit harder to make friends.
But have you met some good friends since you've been out here?
Yeah, I've met friends through other friends. So that's why networking is good as well, because you get constantly connected to other cool people. And it's so much easier to build like a network of an amazing, entrepreneurs and just human beings when you know other people like that share your mindset and that share your vision. And I've met a number of people, of friends, as well as friends from Chiang Mai.
Yeah, I think the network of people that you've met already is definitely your best first way to meet new people. And I think whenever I go to another country, it's almost kind of weird that the people I have on the podcast are usually someone I met in Chiang Mai. I think one of the reasons why I do that is because I want their perspective on comparing the two places, but also it's just more comfortable, hanging out with a friend that you've already met from somewhere else before than like a new random person that hasn't been to the same places that you've been.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it definitely has this. You can feel the connection of sharing the same experience, even if you were in Chiang Mai at different times. You still know that you kind of went for that, I don't know, like a baptizing phase or something.
Yeah. That's so weird. So, yesterday was probably the first time I met a ton of nomads. Actually, okay, so corrections. The first time was I went on this retreat, which was a co-working vacation thing. And they rented this monastery about a few hours away from Barcelona. And that was really cool because we got to live in this old 12th century monastery. And I went because my buddy Sam and Leanne was going to be there. And I figured, if they're going to go, it'd be fun to hang out. It turns out, it was okay. Like it was decently fun. But it was just cool just hanging out with them and then meeting a couple other entrepreneurs. And then besides that, the only time I really met that many other nomads was yesterday when I gave a talk at Transforma co-working space, where they hosted an event led by Codino, which I think stands for co-working nomads in, Barcelona, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. But that was a pretty big turnout. I think there's 40 something people.
Wow.
Who came. And it was really interesting though, talking to them or even just the questions they would ask, because it was very different than the normal kind of nomad questions that I'm used to.
Huh. Now I'm curious, what was the feeling that you got from those people?
I would say more than half of them were just working a normal job, and they were just kind of curious about what it would be like to be location dependent. Mm-hmm. A lot of the questions were kind of just what's your day like?
Uh-huh. I see. That's probably because if you go to, a lot of people are, I guess, from Barcelona, maybe from Europe, and they just kind of moved countries to have another full-time job. But in Chiang Mai, you have people that already took the leap into the digital nomad world, so they actually made that first step. So it's kind of a filtering there, so that people share much more with you because of that initial step.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I think especially before, now it's almost a little bit easier because so many people talk about it, so many blogs about it, so many guides about it. But even 2 or 3 years ago, it was really hard to figure out how to get to Chiang Mai, where to stay, what to do there, how to meet people. So the people that went had a little bit of independence. They, had that kind of entrepreneurial spirit where there's let me go check out this place. It's not that famous yet, but I've heard from one person that it was good. Mm-hmm. Or seems like it might be good. I think one complaint that people have about kind of the newbies coming to Chiang Mai is that because it's so easy for them, sometimes they just show up completely unprepared and it like feeling like everything should just be handed to them.
Yeah.
Because they're like, oh, I'm here. I made it. Like, you know, where's my remote job? Where's my business?
Yeah. I heard the same thing from a couple of other people. So, you know, that's what happens when something gets very popular.
Yeah. But, you know, at the same time, I think what you said earlier about, you know, like having that chance of just going somewhere like Chiang Mai, exploring it for a few months, and then worst comes to worst, you go home and be like, okay, that was a good experience, good vacation. Someone just messaged me earlier today asking me a bunch of questions about like, you know, he's like, oh, I really wanted to move and be location dependent. And he's asking me all these questions that like do not apply for at least 6 months of him being there. And I just wrote back saying like, don't overthink it. You know, like one of the questions he asked was like, he's like, you know, I've heard that after 3 or 4 years, people get a little bit burnt out and they miss home and don't want to stay on. And I'm like, why are you asking me this now when you haven't even fucking went for a month?
I'm not even thinking what I'm going to do in the next, you know, year. I have no clue. Yeah, but again, I remember that when I was living, you know, back in Latvia, you have this, you know, mentality. You always think long term because change is happening so not frequently in your life that you know that things will stay constant for a while. And that's why one of the first things that kind of started changing in my, you know, thinking when I started working remotely and I moved to Chiang Mai is how uncertain things are. And you start to tolerate a lot of uncertainty in your life. Like for me now, it's okay not to know what's going to happen in the next half a year. It's okay. Like I'm going to figure it out along the way. But when you're, you know, you have your life figured out since you go to school, you know, like I'm going to go to school, then I'm going to apply to college, and I'm going to have a job, then like marry, kids, and all that stuff. Then it's, you just don't understand how it's not possible not to have a plan for the next 6 months of your life.
I absolutely agree. And I think that's actually one of the best lessons that we learn being location dependent and traveling is just living in the moment and not stressing or worrying so much about the future, and not to a part where we just don't care about the future, but exactly what you said is that we are confident that we can figure it out. Yeah.
You can always ask your friends, your, you know, remote working friends, or ask someone in the group. Whatever happens, you can make it.
Yeah, I like that. I think, you know, even just like, where are you going to be in 2 months from now? Like, I personally have no idea.
And that's okay, and you feel okay about it. You're not stressing. You're actually happy. Like, there's a point where I think it all shifts to from being stressed about not knowing where you're going to be to being actually excited about, oh, I'm curious to know what's going to happen in those 2 months. So I'm going to end up in, like, you know, X country.
So what are your plans? I'm curious.
So far, my plan is to be in Barcelona for the next 5 months. And afterwards, I'm considering going to Latin America. Really? It's still in the air, but I really want to do it.
So why South America?
Because I haven't been there.
I guess that's easy enough. Right?
Yeah. I was always curious about Chile, and that's the place where I want to go.
Okay, I like that. So what are you actually working on nowadays?
So at the moment, I'm working for a German startup that helps people get into tech. And not only just to learn, you know, web development or UX, but to actually get a job in the industry. And quite an amount of our students are willing to get a remote job. So you can also observe the trend kind of kicking in there. And another thing that I'm doing is working with the Tree Tribe guys, and helping them with marketing and their customer service.
So shout out to Joe, Dylan, Sharif, and all those Tree Tribe guys.
Yeah.
You guys want some bamboo sunglasses, or now they have they have a ton of stuff now, right?
Oh yeah, we have water bottles, so we have different t-shirts and tank tops. So go and check it out. It's really good.
Very cool. Is it treetribe.com?
Yeah, treetribe.com.
Okay. I like it. So back to Barcelona. Now that you're here, you've been here for a month now?
Yeah.
Exactly the same as me. We actually arrived at the same time.
Yeah.
That's cool. What are your kind of favorite things about being here so far?
It's how easy it is to just go anywhere you want to. Like before Barcelona, I was in the States, and as you know, like you need to have a car there. And, you know, I like walking because I grew up in Europe and everything is close, and I like observing architecture. So those are the two main things that I enjoy the most here.
I actually really, really like just being able to get around here as well. So we are living maybe like a 25-minute walk away from the center, but it's so nice to walk here. There are actual sidewalks. Not only are there sidewalks, there are sidewalks in the middle of this road. And the best way to describe it would be, imagine there's like, you know, the buildings and the shops. You have like an actual sidewalk people can walk on. Then you have a one-way road. Then you have a little park in the middle. It's like a tree-lined street that has like a bike path and a walking path. Then you have a road that's like the other direction. And on the other side of the block, you have shops and like the other sidewalk and then shops. So you have the choice to walk on 3 different nice, fully paved, no pothole, like nice sidewalks. And and the whole city is like a grid system, so it's easy to get around. The metro is so easy. You have bus, and then even though they don't have Uber here, it's kind of like New York where they have taxis everywhere, and it's like reasonably priced. So you're not going to use it all the time. But if you're drunk coming home from a bar and there's 2 of you, you're like, let's just pay €5 each for a cab.
Yeah, exactly. And another thing for me, like how I imagine, you know, my ideal location is to be in a city that has some access to either sea or the ocean, and also mountains. And, you know, Barcelona is kind of checking all the boxes here.
Yeah, it's crazy because I actually went camping. No, sorry, not camping. I went hiking last weekend, and it was beautiful. It's an hour and a half away from Barcelona. Actually, tomorrow I'm going hiking again up to a place where I think it's like like a church or a monastery in the mountains. And what's nice about it is I can take the train pretty much all the way there, and then from there I can take I think like a ski lift kind of gondola to the top, and then it's a 5-hour hike. But things like that are not really possible in most other places. Even unfortunately, even in like Chiang Mai, it's not like you're not really gonna take public transport. You know, if I want to go hiking, I'd probably have to ride a scooter to the base of the mountain to be able to go up. Versus here, I can or I have to get a car or something. But here, like, it's nice being able to take a train to a hiking spot.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like, we went to see bunkers last weekend, and it was also very easy. You just take a bus, it drives you there, and you walk.
Yeah, and I think the other thing I like about Barcelona is that it's a big city with no traffic.
Yeah, I don't know how that is possible. Probably because it's so easy to like walk everywhere, and people just choose to do that. Yeah,
or take the bus or the subway.
Yeah.
But it's weird. Like, I keep expecting there to be more cars and traffic, and it's like it's so weird. And then I think it's also because the roads are so wide. It's just like so easy to get around that it's like maybe during rush hour, like it almost looks like a normal time.
Yeah, I haven't seen like a legit rush hour here.
So I actually drove last weekend, and it was my first time driving in a year, and the second time driving in the last maybe 3 years. And it was really random. I just happened to be at this car show where they had these Ferraris, and for whatever reason, I just asked them, I was like, hey, like, can I just pay to drive one of these? Because I couldn't really read it because it was in Spanish. And they were like, yeah, it's €50. And I was like, really? Like, I can drive this Ferrari for €50? And they're like, yeah, do you want to do it? I was like, yes, I want to do it. So I got into a red convertible Ferrari F430, and I got to drive like 15 kilometers around the city, which is pretty much like half the city.
Oh my gosh.
And I got to like drive by the museums, and it was just beautiful. It was such a nice, easy drive, especially for someone who hasn't driven in years in this like 500 horsepower sports car.
Yeah, and you would think like around 5 o'clock is usually the traffic hour, everywhere.
I think, to be fair, I think it was like the afternoon, maybe like like 1 o'clock or something after lunch, but it was a weekend too.
Yeah.
And it was a Sunday at 1 p.m. And in LA, it would be fucking a mess.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, definitely super easy to get around. Very walkable city, and there's a lot to do because it's a big city. So I would say, like there's always something on meetup.com, which they use here more than they use Facebook. But, there's some Facebook events. I'm sure there's couchsurfing events. There's basically something happening almost every night here, just like it would be in New York or I guess LA. Yeah,
so it's very easy to kind of choose or, go along with your interests that you already have. Like I said, boxing classes, yoga classes, like anything that you want to do here, it's very possible.
Yeah, so I would say it has a lot of the benefits of being in a big city like New York or LA, but with less downsides. And even though the rent here is pretty expensive, it's still much cheaper than back home.
Yeah, that's definitely the case. And I've been living in New York for 3 months this year, and God, I miss nature. I miss nature so much there. And it's so accessible here. Like, whatever you want, you can go, hike on the mountain, you can go to the beach, and everything is green and easily walkable, which is also, a trait of New York. But yeah, you just don't feel so stressed. You feel very relaxed.
I definitely agree that it's a lot more relaxed here. And I actually think that's one of the downsides of Barcelona, where it has like that siesta mentality, where it's not, for most things, it's not, I don't know. I guess I never really actually had to get anything done, so it wasn't a big deal. But a lot of things are just closed most of the day.
Yeah. Like,
I remember the other day, I wanted to have dinner, and I think it was around 7 p.m. And I'm like walking around trying to find this restaurant, and we go to it and it's closed. We're like, oh, I guess maybe it's Sunday, so it's closed. And then we go somewhere else and it's closed. And then I'm like looking around, I'm like, why are all these restaurants closed? And I realize it's because they close after lunch and they don't open up again until like 8 p.m.
Yeah, this is something that is very, very unusual for me, because I like to have dinner at like 6 or 7 o'clock in the evening. And here people usually dine at like 10 p.m. I think even later.
Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah, it's like you're walking, at 11 o'clock in the night, and their restaurants are full of people. They're talking and they're drinking and all this stuff. And I haven't seen that anywhere, I think. Maybe only in New York, but definitely not in Chiang Mai, only on Fridays.
Yeah, and even in New York, it's not as bad, I think. Because in New York, the restaurants will be open at 6. It will be slightly empty because people are still working.
Oh, yeah. A lot of places would just be closed like after 8 or something.
Yeah.
But here they're just open till I don't even know when. Like 11? No, like 1 o'clock, I think, in the morning.
Yeah, like it's normal to get a dinner reservation for midnight.
Yeah.
And then eat until 1 a.m.
Yeah, it is.
So one of the best things about Barcelona that I actually personally haven't really done, just because I like waking up early, is the nightlife. And I think that's why people like it so much.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem with the nightlife here is it starts at 2 a.m.
Yes, exactly. Like, I want to check it out. I'm just curious. Like, I've heard very good things from a lot of people that nightlife in Barcelona is something. And I want to try it out, but I usually go to sleep before 2 a.m. So when I'm, it's not that easy for me to I need to make a commitment to actually go and like stay till 4 a.m. in the morning.
Or 6 a.m.
Yeah, or 6 a.m. Yeah, I think people just don't sleep the other day or sleep during the day.
So we're living in like a shared flat where there's, 4 other roommates. And I swear to God, nobody wakes up until 3 p.m.
Are you kidding me?
Every day. And so they usually go out, after midnight to go eat dinner, and then they go drink, and then they come back at like, 4, 5, 6 in the morning.
Oh, wow.
And I think that's just like a normal life here. And I don't think that's very good for productivity or for entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I thankfully, like, I'm living with, a flatmate that works at a company, so he needs to be at work at like 9 or 8 o'clock in the morning. So I would say that I'm around like a productive person in a way. But I agree, like when you're in this kind of environment, it does affect you.
And it gets really easy, especially if you aren't currently working and you have time to be able to go out and just, drink late. I think it's really hard to get back in that mode of having a normal 9 to 5 work day and like really grinding and hustling and just excelling.
Yeah, that's why it helps to have people around you that actually, do the same. Because otherwise it's so easy to kind of slip to whatever everyone is doing in the city.
And that's actually one of the downsides of Chiang Mai is that because it's so cheap to live there, a lot of people just get comfortable. Like, once you start making $1,000 a month, especially in passive income, you're just like, I'm done.
I was just talking about this yesterday, that this is one of the things that kind of pushed me to move out of Chiang Mai. It's a good place to go back to for like a couple of months, but when you stay there for a while, you really get comfortable of, as you said, you earn like $1,000 a month and you live there, as a king. You have a good apartment, you eat out every time because it's so cheap. And, then people just lack ambition. They have everything they want and they don't need to want more.
The weather's warm. Like, there's always something to just kind of like chill and go do. And like, yeah, you're right. And I think that's why people in places like London or New York or San Francisco, they are so driven to make so much money, is because they have this $3,000 a month budget, like a bill that they have to pay, for rent and food and utilities. Sometimes it's like $5,000 a month just to live.
Yeah.
So they're like, well, if I'm not crushing it, like I'm screwed.
Yeah. And it also kind of stimulates you to be like in this kind of vibe of like, I need to constantly be doing something. I need to be productive. And that's what I felt when I was in New York. Like everyone is doing something. They have their whole day planned. Like, I don't know, 4 meetings after work or something. Yeah. Like socializing is a job for them. You can actually feel it because they know how valuable connections are. And, so I think that's another, reason why it's good to travel, to kind of get different ideas from different places and put them together and create something that works for you.
I like it. So for you personally, would you move back to New York?
No. I would definitely visit it. It's a one-of-a-kind place, and for connections, it's definitely the top place on the planet. But living there, I would say it's too stressful for me. It's like I was lacking that genuine connection. Because people are so, kind of goal-oriented and working, and you just feel that at some point they're meeting people just for the sake of having a connection and not for the sake of getting to know that person.
Well, LA is not that much different.
Yeah. So, good place to visit, not that good place to live, at least for me.
The funny thing about New York is they say it is the loneliest city and also the most populated.
Yes, exactly. Like I've heard it from New Yorkers that live there for years. They say that it's so lonely to live in New York, and you get very disappointed when you start to feel that all the relationships people have there are transactional. And that's how they were described by New Yorkers. They know, they're not like delusional about it, that know exactly what's happening.
But I think even a normal relationship, people are working so much that you just don't even have time to see each other.
Yeah, that's the issue. Like everyone in New York has like a full-time job, then some kind of side project, and then, like organizations or clubs that they're running. And you're like, I mean, when do you relax? When do you just take time for yourself and think about what's going on in your life?
So can you see yourself basing yourself in Barcelona in the future?
That's a good question. Again, too far ahead for me to know for sure, but it's definitely one of the places where I feel good. I don't know if I would stay here for like a number of years, but yeah, it's a place that I want to go back to.
I actually think Barcelona is one of those places where people either just visit and then leave, and then kind of use it as like a vacation spot, or they just come here and they're like, this is good, I'm staying here. And it's mostly Europeans that I've met who have been long-term expats now for 8 years or longer. And they all say it's because it's cold in whatever country they're from.
Yeah.
And they get here, and it's like, it gets cold in the winter, but it doesn't snow. So it's very like like a manageable year-round temperature.
Mm-hmm.
And just for that, I think they're just like, I'm staying here.
Yeah.
Lower cost of living than in a lot of other European cities.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, I think people just kind of get comfortable here.
Yeah, it's very easy to get comfortable here. And right now I have a feeling that, you know, by the end of the 5-month period that I'm going to stay here, I either will like it a lot and will want to come back, or I will get, you know, too much of it and I will want to move on to something else.
Yeah, I'm kind of half-half with Barcelona so far. I'm actually writing my travel guide to Barcelona. So I'm about 3/4 of the way through, so look for that. It'll probably be out by the time this episode actually publishes, so look on johnnyft.com. But in there, I basically write all the pros and cons of living in Barcelona, and we'll see. We'll see if I make this kind of more of a place I will return to more often. But I kind of measure every place I go to now with a awesome to annoying scale,
Mm-hmm.
where there's a lot of places that are very awesome, but also very annoying. Like, for example, Bali. There's so much cool stuff there. You know, there's like some pretty awesome food, awesome beaches, awesome nature, but the annoyances there, like pretty much everything else about it is so high that it just it's not worth it. Like it's more annoying than it's awesome. Chiang Mai, for instance, it's good, but it's not that awesome. I think, you know, there's no like beach, there's nothing about it that's like, oh my God, this is like mind blowing. It's just very good. But the annoying scale is really low, where there's like so few things that are actually annoying about living in Chiang Mai. You know, it's like really easy to get around. Like everyone's nice, everything's easy, everything's cheap. Barcelona, I think it's kind of like in the middle so far, where it's kind of awesome, where you have, for example, you have the beach, but as some people point out, it's not an ocean, it's a sea. So, and I didn't really know what the difference was. But it turns out an actual ocean with waves is much cooler than being by a sea.
Yeah. Yeah. And, if you try to get something from the service industry in Barcelona, I mean, just generally in Spain, it's very annoying to deal with service people. It's like, oh God, I just had to, get myself a SIM card, and like I was on the edge of just raging at a person. I know that it's not the way to go, but it was very annoying.
So when I went to Vodafone, after talking to them, they're like, oh, like we are out of SIM cards. And I'm like, how are you out of SIM cards? You're like, it's a giant store and that's what you guys sell. And luckily there was no line there, but like at the very one place next door, there was like a 30-minute wait just to get my SIM card. And I was thinking, I would have been so pissed off if I waited 30 minutes for them to tell me that they're out of SIM cards.
Yeah. God. So
definitely some annoyances with Barcelona as well. I'll be sure to write kind of the pros and cons in the blog post. But I think overall, you know, it's nice to be here, right? Good weather, lots to do.
Yeah, agreed. So what is the place that's on top of your awesomeness list?
That is the whole point of not just this podcast, but this journey and this whole life, is to find the place that is awesome. Like, that's like finding like the perfect, most beautiful, most awesome, you know, person that has like zero like annoying things that they do and no drama, no like no high maintenance. I don't know if it exists, number one. And I don't even know if like it's, you know, something that we should even really like strive for. We should just be happy with finding something that, like Chiang Mai, which to me is like, it's pretty awesome. You know, like, you know, the mountains are awesome, the food's awesome, people are awesome, and it's not annoying. So far I would say that's the best. I would say also up there would be Portugal, which I'm honestly surprised every time I meet people who live long term in Barcelona and I ask them why and all the reasons they give me. I think to myself, why don't you just live in Portugal? It's cheaper, it's nicer, it's by an actual ocean, and it's overall has less of the annoyances and more of the awesomeness.
Huh. That's a good tip for me, you know, to consider.
So maybe you check it out and let me know how it is.
I will.
So if people want to reach out to you, are you on social media or anything?
Yeah, I think the best way to, get in contact with me is on Facebook. That's what I check regularly. And it's Viktorija Juskevica, not Justice.
You definitely need to get at Viktorija Justice for all your social media. How cool would that be?
I know, but there is an actual Viktorija Justice.
Who's she?
She's an actress.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Is she cool?
Yeah. You can, check her out.
We'll Google her. We'll use her as the episode show cover. I'm kidding. I won't use you. All right, but I'm sure you guys can't actually spell Viktorija's name, so we'll have it in the show notes. A link to it in travellikeabosspodcast.com and search for episode 162. Viktorija, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Ciao. Hey, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Big thank you to NYC Allen, as well as everyone else who's left these amazing 5-star reviews of the podcast on iTunes. NYC Allen says, 5 stars. Johnny, I'm a huge fan of your podcast. I want to thank you and your guests for sharing their online success stories and inspiring us to become digital entrepreneurs. Props to you for offering a ton of knowledge and being so resourceful to us listeners. Keep doing what you're doing, and I hope to be on your podcast someday. NYC Allen, I hope to meet you, and hopefully you bring a slice of that amazing New York pizza out to Chiang Mai or Spain or wherever I am. And if you guys need to book a flight, I want to give a quick thank you to our sponsor, tripstreak.com. You can check them out the next time you guys need to book a flight, either from New York to Spain or to Chiang Mai or wherever you want to go in the world. They have all these awesome preferences where you can choose lay flat only seats or red eye only flights, whatever you like. Check out tripstreak.com/travel-like-a-boss. I'll see you guys all next week. Hasta luego and ciao. Thank you for listening to the Travel Like a Boss podcast. If you want to hear more, including the bonus How to Choose the Perfect Niche episode, join our mailing list at travellikeabosspodcast.com. See you next week, and remember, if you want to travel like a boss, you need to be your own boss. So start your online business today and start living the lifestyle you've always dreamed of.